Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I ain't gonna lie, I really listen to the episodes. I'm like, God damn, that boy cannot sing. It's gonna get better though. You know what I'm saying? A consistency and progress in the vocals is gonna get there. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. But what's good, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of In the Mind of Dame. We are back once again with another episode. Welcome back to the show. Hope you guys had a lovely past week. I know last weekend was Valentine's Day, All-Star Weekend. A bunch of shit was going on, man. We're going to get into a lot of it. But man, how's everybody doing, man? Hope everybody's week is going good. By the time you guys get this episode, it's going to be Thursday. So I hope you guys had a good first half of the week. We got a couple more days left, but we're going to push through it, man. It's going to be Thursday. We got one more day, then a nice weekend. Shit, some of y'all, I be forgetting because I be forgetting holidays since I work in retail and we don't really get holidays off per se. But some of y'all had Monday off. Yeah, y'all had President's Day off, man. So I hope you guys enjoyed the 3-day weekend, especially on Valentine's. Man, I living good. I living good, my nigga. But nah, man. But that's a great, man. Great past weekend. What did I do this past week? This past week was chill. I ain't really get into too much. I had a job interview on Monday, so that was cool to get into. I should hear something back next week. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I ain't gonna hold you. It's for a dispensary. It's for the dispensary I go to buy weed. So hopefully I get it. I think from going in there, the amount of times and I talked to the people that work there and everything like that, it seemed like a chill work environment. I think honestly, the reason why I am interested in getting the job is just because I think I've just prioritize a better work environment, because it's not like I want to work forever, you know what I mean? And I have a topic on the topic board about that anyway, but it's not like I really want to work a 9 to 5 forever anyway. So I think as of right now, I feel like it would be cool to kind of just work a job that I think is chill, cool work environment. The hours aren't ideal, you know. She told me it's gonna be like a nighttime shift basically from like 2 to 10, so it's like that's not really the most ideal shift in the world. But I mean, I think if you couple that in with a good working environment, and she told me some of the stuff that, you know, you can get from working there in terms of just like, oh, like, you know, you get samples and discounts and, you know, we were pretty lenient about X, Y, and Z. So, I mean, it sounded like a good opportunity to try out, and I probably will work both jobs for a while just to kind of see how it works, you know, especially because, you know, my benefits, my health insurance, all that is through Walmart and everything. So we'll kind of see. You know, I should hear something back. I'm pretty sure I got it. I mean, I have hella years of experience, especially in customer service, so definitely feels like a good opportunity. So hopefully, fingers crossed, your boy gets it, you know, and we'll kind of see and go from there. Valentine's Day this past weekend, it was Saturday, so probably I really don't even remember the last time Valentine's Day was on a Saturday. But Valentine's Day for me, it was chill, man. As you guys know, like, I'm not actively in a relationship right now, so it was the first time I had been, you know, alone on Valentine's Day in terms of not being in a relationship. And it was pretty rough. I'm not going to lie. Like, I think for the most part, kind of just carrying day to day, I don't really think about being single as much, but on days where, you know, there's so much, I think, romantic love kind of being shown and it's everywhere, you know, it can be a little disappointing. You know what I mean? Like, I ended up going to Texas Roadhouse on some chill shit, just like, fuck it, I just kind of just want to get out the house and instead of moping around. And then I just went out there, and I mean, it was cool. I mean, I got me a good meal, got me a good strawberry margarita while I was there, so it was a cool time. But it still was kind of like lonely, just kind of looking around everybody on dates and everything like that. You know, you still kind of like, damn, man, like, I kind of wish I had somebody to spend it with. And I get it, you know, I know everybody like, you can spend time with your moms. Like, brother, my mother is married, you know what I'm saying? She got a whole husband, you know, my dad, you know, so they was locked in, and I, you know what I'm saying? Of course, you know, my mom is my forever Valentine, but the primary, you know, receiver of love on Valentine's Day is usually your lover, your significant other. So not having one, you know, for me, and I having had one the past couple years, and now going to not having one, it felt different. You know what I mean? You know, it really does kind of make you reflect a little bit more. But besides that, I mean, it's been a cool week, man. You know, I just had these past 2 days off, so it's been chill, man. I went to play basketball all day yesterday. Like, I got to the court around maybe 11 a.m. and I didn't leave till like 3. You know what I mean? I haven't played that much basketball in a single day in in years. You know what I mean? My body is sore as fuck. But when I tell you, it felt so good to do that again, especially because for me now, I'm not that pressed to play full court basketball or anything like that. It's like if I play it, I play it, but I see so many TikToks and I've experienced it enough firsthand of like going to a court and hooping and it just turning into just a complete shit show just because people there start talking shit and then it just becomes ego filled and then niggas be it just turns into a disaster. You know what I mean? Niggas want to break out fighting. The next thing you know, it just turns into a mess, especially where I go to the LA Fitness at. That's like in PG County. So, you know, that shit could flip off into niggas getting shot in any second. You know what I mean? So I don't really be too pressed to play basketball with a bunch of people just because it can just turn into a mess. It's not usually a pleasant experience just because of where it can turn into, and then people's play style just make it not as fun to play. It just turns into a mess. So just kind of get in there and just, you know, I play, you know, King of the Court with some random kids, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Them niggas was frying my ass up. I was cooking back. Don't get me wrong. Like, I was scoring too. But, bro, like, the one nigga, he was so good with his crossovers and his hezzies, bro. Like, I was out there dancing, bro. I could not believe how bad them niggas was scoring on me. I ain't even gonna lie. I'm like, yo, I'm usually not the bid like this on the court defensively, but bro, I was getting my ass fried. Like, I ain't even finna sit here and cap, bro. But I ain't gonna lie, my jumper, that shit looking all right. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been usually when I go to the court in the recent times I've been just shooting around, practicing my pull-up jumpers, you know, just getting to the mid-range, shooting the three more. So I've been primarily just shooting. So to see it in game action and it was still kind of translating in game, bro, that shit felt good, bro. That shit was crazy. Then I was playing 33 with niggas and we did 2v2. You know, one dude I usually see in there a good amount when I usually go play basketball, me and that nigga ran the ones. So it was a good workout for sure. But, you know, I'm definitely paying for it body-wise. I'm not 19 no more. Your nigga is 27. So trust me, my body definitely feel the pain from that shit. But besides that, I can't really complain. It's been a good week, man. It's been a good week. I think I seen a movie this past week too. Oh, I seen Crime 101. Me and the movie buffs, that's what I call us, the niggas I usually go to the movies with. Also, if I've never mentioned it, y'all, like, if you fuck with movies, especially new movies in the theater, bro, AMC has a rewards program, like a membership where you could pay like $25 for the month and it pays for you to go see movies for the whole month, basically. Like, you have like a limit of seeing 4 movies per week. But for the most part, because I doubt you're going to see 4 movies a week, bro, like, you basically just pay $25 and you get to see as many movies as you want for the month. Like, I think you should get it. That's why I'm so hip to the new releases and I'll be so hip to movies and shit. I've seen so many movies that have been in theaters in the past couple of years because that's just how me and the homies hang out now, is just going to the theater. But I think it's a good deal. So we went to go see Crime 101. That was with I think he's Thor, and Halle Berry was in that joint. It wasn't bad. It was kind of like a Heat spinoff or whatever. Like, it just, to me, it really wasn't that interesting. I feel like it was kind of a longer movie. It had to be over 2 hours, and it wasn't as climatic as I thought it would be. But some people did enjoy it. But for me, I thought it was chill. Like, if I had to give it a rating, I'd say like a 6 out of 10. Without spoiling too much, it just wasn't as, like I said, climatic as I thought it would be. It kind of was a slow burn. There really wasn't much action until like damn near the very end of the movie, for real. So it was chill. It was a cool movie. We should be seeing another one tomorrow, which will be today by the time you guys get this episode. But that was the week, man. But let's get into these topics, man. We had a lot of dope shit kind of happen this week. I asked you guys for some topics, so I actually do have some on the board. Some are happy, some are chill, some are pretty depressing, but it'll be fun to talk about some of this shit. So let's get into it. Let's start off with All-Star Weekend. All-Star Weekend was this past weekend in the NBA. There was a lot of talk about how this All-Star Weekend was going to go. I think All-Star Weekend, when it comes around, the conversation has kind of been the same for the past couple of years. What type of All-Star game are we getting? Are they going to be competitive? How's this format going to go? dunk contest, 3-point contest, all these things. Friday night was a celebrity game, and I think the Rising Stars game. And I'm gonna just be honest, I think the celebrity game, to me, I don't even really get the draw behind it anymore. I just feel like I've never really found it to be that interesting to watch celebrities who are where you just it's 50-50 on the roster of like, okay, they're pretty decent at basketball, and then the other half is just horrendously bad. Like, they just look like they've never played basketball ever in their life. It's just not always the most entertaining product. I mean, I think, of course, probably back in the days, they had more celebrities that I think I was really interested in, like whether it was Justin Bieber that one year he went crazy, or when they had like Quavo or Chris Brown in it, like it had celebrities that I think I was kind of more intrigued by. I think when I look at the rosters this year, I'm just so like, I'm okay on seeing them play basketball, just because I just never been interested to see Glorilla's basketball skills. I just have zero interest in seeing that. No offense to Glow, you know what I'm saying, but at least when I seen some people, I'm like, okay, I've seen them play basketball on Instagram or something like that, so it would be interesting. Like, I feel like the celebrity game would be interesting if it was celebrities that I think were actually good and actually were like good at basketball. Like, if they put J. Cole in there, I think that would be interesting. You know what I mean? If you put like guys who are pretty active in basketball, where you're like, okay, that would be interesting. 2 Chainz. Like, I've seen a lot of videos and clips of them niggas playing. I'm just like, all right, that would be more interesting than watching people who just are in the game who's never played basketball much in their life. So I really didn't care about that. The Rising Stars game, I really didn't care about that either. Personally, just wasn't that interested to watch it. Friday night is usually a wash for me on All-Star Weekend. Saturday was interesting. They started way earlier than I expected, because I think when I was at Texas Roadhouse, I was like, it was probably like 7:30, 8 o'clock when I got there. And next thing you know, I'm like watching. I'm like, oh shit, they might put the dunk contest on, or the 3-point contest. They had like a college basketball game on. And I just happened to look down at the ticker at the bottom, and it was like Damian Lillard went the 3-point contest. I was like, God damn, that was quick. You know what I'm saying? They did that shit already. So then I kind of rewatched it, and the 3-point contest was fairly interesting. It was very interesting. It was a competitive one. Damian Lillard came off the couch and won the whole thing again. So it inspired Steph to be like, yo, I'm gonna get Dame to do it again. I'm gonna get Clay in it. The 3-point contest is fun. I think they could benefit from it being longer, because it does feel like it kind of just is in and out so fast with the 3-point contest. Like, it just feels like it's almost like 2 or 3 rounds at most. But very entertaining. It's fun to watch some of the best 3-point shooters in the league compete. And I think that's what is so fun about the 3-point contest, is that it actually has the name value of people that are actually interested in watching the league in terms of 3-point contest. Con Knipple, it had Donovan Mitchell. Who else was in it? Devin Booker. Like, it had names in it where it was like, oh, these are some pretty fire names in the 3-point contest, because these dudes are really good at shooting the 3 in the league, and they have name value. And then you get to the dunk contest, and the dunk contest was a wash, like it has been for the past couple years. I really cannot recall, since Zach LaVine versus Aaron Gordon, a dunk contest I found even remotely as good. And yes, that's probably considered one of the best NBA dunk contests of all time. I kind of said this to my mans at work. I was kind of like, I think the NBA, they shouldn't just do without the dunk contest, but I think they should just outsource the talent for the dunk contest. I think there's so many dope dunkers around the world who professionally are dunkers. Like, I haven't checked out, I don't know any of them by name, but I remember like back in the Baller's Life hype YouTube days during COVID and everything like that, like 1 Foot guy used to be in there doing crazy dunks on these park courts and these competitions or whatever. And I think it just made me kind of think, like, maybe that's where they should go, because I watched a video of Mac McClung showing what dunks he would have done, and they looked fucking nuts. You know what I mean? And I think the problem with the dunk contest is just the fact that, for one, it doesn't have the name value, and 2, you feel like you've seen every dunk already. You know what I mean? Like, it's different, like, seeing every dunk already, but they're not getting it on the first try. Like, I remember Jace Richardson, I did not consider him to be a dunker at all, because when he was in college, when I watched this film, that nigga was mostly a 3-point shooter. Bro, he busted his ass, yo. Like, he busted his ass. And I could just imagine what Adam Silver looked like when he watched it. Like, what the fuck are we doing on this court right now? Like, it just looked like a mess. And I don't know. It just the dunk contest has obviously lost its aura to where I think, I kind of heard this idea like maybe the 3-point contest should be the main event. I'm not really against it because the 3-point contest is a pretty exciting event. You know what I mean? If they made it longer and they have the names for it to do it, yeah, the 3-point contest is one of them ones. But I really do think the NBA could benefit from just getting the best dunkers in the world to go do it, just because you're just not getting the names to do it, unfortunately. I know a lot of people blame LeBron and, well, LeBron never did it and it took the hype away from All-Star Weekend. It's just like, whatever. But, there's a lot of names who haven't done it. I think Zion would have been interesting to do. I thought Ant could have been interested. Ja. Like, the league has dunkers, and I feel like it's literally just like when you watch the dunk contest, it's just very eighth man, ninth man on the roster guys doing the dunk contest. It just doesn't. And then on top of it, the dunks that they're doing just are not as exciting or interesting, unfortunately. So it makes the dunk contest kind of a wash. And I feel like at this rate, they're better off kind of just outsourcing the talent for it and kind of making it one of the earlier events, like maybe right after the Shooting Stars Challenge or some shit. I know a lot of people are really excited about the potential idea of a one-on-one tournament. I don't think it's ever going to happen. Personally, I think the NBA players are too prideful to want to go out there and play 1v1, because if you lose, you're probably going to get trolled all over the internet. You know what I mean? I know Jaylen Brown said he was interested in it, and I know Unrivaled did it, and I thought, shout out to the ladies for having the guts to do it. But I just think the NBA players are too prideful. I honestly used to think, like, what is the reason why they wouldn't do it? And I think it really just came down to either injury risk and or fear of embarrassment. And I feel like those two things kind of mean something. You know what I mean? So I think it would be interesting. I think the way to incentivize bigger name players to do it, and the NBA has the money to do it, is to kind of put some money into it. You've seen how hard they kind of play for the NBA Cup because there's money involved. I think if you put a cash prize in it, like, hey, yo, whoever wins this 1v1 tournament, we got $1 million with your name on it, which is probably nothing for the NBA considering how much they make per year and all these fucking gambling sponsorships these motherfuckers have. You would think that, yeah, just putting $1 million and saying, yo, whoever wins this 1v1 tournament gets $1 million. You can separate it by position, guards play guards, wings versus wings, centers versus centers. You know what I mean? Like, you could make it interesting. I think it would incentivize maybe more involvement for bigger names. You know what I mean? I just don't think it's fun watching events where it's the eighth guy on the depth chart playing. Like, we were watching Carter Bryant and Jace Richardson and Jackson Hayes do it, and it's not like these guys are trash in the league per se. It's just that, but these aren't the names that you really jump out and be like, oh, he doing the dunk contest. You're just like, oh, okay, cool. I mean, we'll check it out just because there's nothing else. So yeah, and then we get to Sunday in the All-Star game. What a game! I mean, they did a really good job. I think having the world versus the OGs versus the young niggas in the league, I thought that was a dope idea, because I think there was a level of pride that goes into it where, like, hey, the young niggas are like, yo, we want to show that we coming up in the league. Because I do feel like there is kind of a fear with the young cats that people are kind of more worried about, especially with the world and the talent kind of popping up more in the world. When you look at some of the top guys in the league, like the top 5 guys are damn near international players. You know what I mean? So I think there was like this leveling fear of the world catching up to America, and like now we're kind of pushing the older guys out. Like LeBron's probably not going to do the Olympics no more KD, no more Steph. It's time for these younger guys to step up. The K's, the Ants, those type of guys are going to be representing America in the future. So I think they had something to prove, and then, you have the world and they want to show, like, we one of them, and the OGs had something to prove. And I think it led to them having, 3 solid first games. I thought world versus the YNs, super dope game. It was competitive. Scotty Barnes with the game winner. Then you go to YNs versus the OGs. That was a hell of a game. De'Aaron Fox, game winner. That one goes down to the wire. The world versus the OGs, and Kawhi goes absolutely nuts. You know what I mean? And shout out to Wemby. I think everybody really gave Wemby and Ant a lot of the credit for kind of getting the competitiveness back into the All-Star game and saying, "No, we're gonna actually play this shit the right way and play competitive." And it made it fun. I thought the format of like having 4 quarters and each game being a quarter was dope. I think the only bad part is the OGs ended up playing 3 games in a row. So by the time they got to the 4th game, they were gassed, and then it wasn't even a game. Damn near with 9 minutes left in the last game between the OGs and the YN. So that could use a little bit of a different formatting or at least a different planning. Try to maybe find a way to get a longer break in between games between the last one in the third one, you know what I mean? Especially if you're a team that just played 3 in a row. Maybe you try to figure out maybe like a little performance or something to kind of, get some time in rather than just hopping right into the last game. But besides that, I think I can't really complain too much about the format or just the idea in general, just because it led to competitive basketball. And I think if anything, that's all everybody wanted was just, hey, just don't come to the All-Star game and just pull half-court threes and nobody just even trying. Like, let's actually see the best players in the league kind of go at it in this format, and let's just see what kind of comes of it. And I thought, just the way they did it this year was dope. I don't know if it's an idea that they're going to stick with forever, because you can't really guarantee that you're going to have enough players in all sectors of younger players, OGs, and international players. I don't know if you're always going to be able to fill up that pool every single year. But I think for what you had this year, I thought it was really dope how they did it. And like I said, it led to 3 really competitive games that went down to the wire. And you saw elite hoops. That All-Star Weekend wasn't the only thing that happened during All-Star Weekend. Not just some great basketball. Some drama. Let's start off with KD. I think KD's probably the easiest one. KD's has an alleged burner, and he said a lot of things about his former teammates. Some of his current teammates on the Rockets. He said some things about Sengun and Jabari Smith. He had some comments about Russ. He said, it was nice. He had some comments about Steve Kerr and Steph. And it wasn't the best look, especially because right after it all happened, you just see KD just all on his phone the whole time. He didn't really shoot that well during the All-Star game. He just looked kind of completely out of it by that time it kind of came around. So, if you want me to, in my honest opinion, I think it's KD. I think when you read the tweets and it just lines up that it's KD. But if it's not KD, this is a hell of a script. You know what I mean? This is a hell of a script that you wrote, because goodness gracious, this was super believable. But besides that, I think my biggest thing with the whole KD thing in general and my thoughts on it is just, this is not a good look for KD. This is not a good look for many reasons. I feel like, for one, I think what happened, especially in Houston, is that the Houston Rockets, I think, sped up a timeline that I think they weren't ready for. And because they did that, they got Kevin Durant. This was a young team who I think last year, they still had very clear flaws, but they ended up being the number 2 team they were the number 2 seed going into the playoffs last year. So because of having such, surprising success last year in terms of seeding, you were one of the best defenses in the league. You feel like you can just kind of plug KD into it and all your problems are going to be solved. And then you kind of realize that just plugging KD in doesn't really solve the problems, because the problems you had last year, KD isn't the perfect bandage to just fit over it. You know what I mean? Like, you're expecting certain guys to kind of have grown in their game a little bit more. You were kind of hoping maybe Amen Thompson could shoot the 3 better. Maybe Sengun, would just improve in areas of his game. Maybe how quick he makes decisions on the floor. His shooting, finishing around the paint. Maybe you were hoping that these things would improve. And they haven't. And I think kind of seeing Kevin Durant, I think, speak so blatantly about the flaws of the team the way he did, and it getting exposed. It's one thing to kind of have those feelings if you're Kevin Durant. I think it's another thing for it to kind of be aired out like that, especially when you're calling Jabari Smith the R word. You know what I mean? It's like, how do you kind of go back into how do you go back into the locker room and kind of explain that to him? You know what I mean? Like, how do you do that? And I think, the Rockets aren't short of their flaws, but I think for him to have to be so vocal about it, I think it is not the best look. Um, I think a lot of other things he said were very interesting. Some of them were funny. Like, Steve Kerr hasn't liked dark skinned people since Michael Jordan punched him. That was pretty funny. But I think for me, the one thing I've kind of felt like is very interesting with KD is just somewhat of a lack of, I think, a place he can kind of claim. Like, one thing I think when you look back at KD's career is just like there's really no team that claims Kevin Durant. Like, everybody's kind of like, we kind of cool off of Kevin Durant. Like, OKC fans, I think they still are not very fond of KD. You know what I mean? He might have been, their number one guy for all those years, but he's been replaced by SGA. Like, that is SGA's franchise. He is the number one guy for the Thunder. And I think with going to Golden State, that's always been Steph's team. Even when he was there, it was always going to be Steph's team. Other teams, the Brooklyn, it didn't work out that well. In Phoenix, they hate the fans over there, hate him too. And I think sometimes when you kind of read the tweets, it just feels like Kevin Durant and Twitter just is not a good combination, because I think he's so openly free on Twitter. And I think there's also a level of, I think he just thinks that he's just overly right because he plays in the NBA. So there's kind of like, it's only his opinion and everybody else is just kind of wrong. But I think you kind of open up the door and the floodgates to having this happen to you when you're so vocal with the fans about how you feel about things, and that their opinion is just of, like, that their opinion isn't as important as yours is, because you're Kevin Durant, you're one of the faces of the league. And it's like a lot of these people just don't agree with how you view things in the NBA. Like, I think Kevin Durant feels like everybody in the NBA community is kind of a hater about how things are going, and this and this and this, and he feels like he has to take on this responsibility to defend it. And then it's like, you don't always have to. People have opinions. Like, yeah, they might not like the format of this or how they did that, and it's not always you have to be on the front lines to say, wow, you guys don't like it. You know what I mean? And then on top of it, behind closed doors or in group chats on your burner account, you're talking shit about everybody that you played with or played for. It just makes you look a specific way. And I think it just makes KD kind of seem holier than thou. It just makes him seem like everywhere he's been, if it didn't work out, if Houston doesn't work out, it's almost like he's already lining up this idea that, hey, y'all, it wasn't my fault, it wasn't me, I did my part. The reason why the Rockets won't win a championship with me on the team is because Sengun some shit and Jabari Smith. I don't know why I keep saying Jabari Parker. Jabari Smith is ass, and the reason why being OKC didn't work is because the cocaine nose triple double merchant Russell Westbrook is always trying to compete with me. It's just like, when does KD kind of look back and say, maybe we didn't work out in OKC all that well because of how I played? You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have the greatest series against the Warriors, and even then, KD makes it seem like they were first round exits every year. Like, the Thunder, when he was there, were very successful. Like, they weren't really that short of the Western Conference Finals or the Finals his duration while he was there. Like, you know what I'm saying? They didn't have the greatest spacing in the world and have, the biggest, the most, the best supporting cast in the league. But they had the tools and pieces, and if they kept kind of retooling and, getting better around the margins, they could have still made it back to the finals. I mean, you were up 3-1. You know what I mean? I think Brooklyn, that was just a weird situation in general. And the Suns just underachieved. I think that was another team that they had a tremendous amount of success, and they gutted the whole team and just saying, oh, well, we have this and this, so you add KD to this is what's going to get us over the hump, rather than, I think, continue to get better around the margins. They just decided to just say, well, we got Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant. And it's just like, okay, well, what about everybody else? You're paying 3 max contract players. And they underachieved, bro. You know what I'm saying? KD did play well in Phoenix, but, Bradley Beal, I think, was a shell of himself. And, they had Devin Booker playing more playmaking roles because they didn't have a point guard. So, I don't know. It's a very bad look for Kevin Durant. And like I said, I just don't know how you go back to to Houston after All-Star break and kind of just face the teammates that you were talking so poorly about. You know what I mean? Because I think as KD kind of being the leader, KD was brought into the Rockets to be the leader of the team, to help these young guys get better and improve the team and help motivate these guys and get them in the right position. And it just feels like you can't just kind of be led with that position and say, well, yeah, Jabari Smith is the R word. You know what I mean? He doesn't know anything, and Sengun can't shoot or defend. And who gives a fuck if I have 100 turnovers when Sengun can't do this? It's just like, it's just a bad look. You know, you're the veteran of this team, and I get it. Like, it might be more frustrating because you're coming in there with, hey, I'm trying to compete one more time, and it feels like you're kind of on a team full of young guys. But I mean, that was to be expected when you got to Houston. I didn't think Kevin Durant was just going to make them the ultimate number one seed contender, because they still had a lot of flaws on their team. And then you lose Fred VanVleet for the year to a torn ACL. Yeah, bro, like, you were going to struggle. So I don't know. I guess I just feel differently about, you know, where the Rockets were projected to be, I guess, going into the year than most. But I mean, to me, the way the Rockets are playing was to be expected. You know what I mean? You kind of replaced a culture setter that Dylan Brooks was, and you see how he's kind of having the Suns playing hard. That was the Rockets' identity last year. And that's not to say the Rockets aren't a good defensive team this year. They're still one of the better defensive teams. But offensively, they still have the same problems. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of like you were thinking that it was Jalen Green for Kevin Durant. Oh, shit, well, that's an upgrade. But everybody else around the margins struggles shooting the ball. They don't have a point guard. You know what I mean? So the team just struggles still. And I think to hear Kevin Durant be so open and blunt and blatant about the flaws of the team, and then naming the players, especially players that he played with on other teams, it's just not a good look. It's a poor look. This next part of All-Star Weekend pains me to say, but LeBron was asked about Israel and the fans over there and Denny Avia. And LeBron kind of just mentioned that, yeah, you know, he's happy he has fans over in Israel, and he's happy that, you know, he can inspire them over there, and he hopes to go over there one day. And he's heard nothing but great things about Israel. And if you want me to keep it honest, and we're going to have another topic on the docket, kind of talking about the state of the world, I was disappointed. You know, I lost a lot of respect for Bron in that one. I think a lot of it stems from just, I think you just feel like, especially with everything going on in the world, and we're actively seeing what's going on in Israel and Gaza and Palestine and everything like that, it just feels a little bit irresponsible to kind of say. I think the beginning part of it is, you know, I have fans in Israel. I hope I inspire them. I think I was kind of cool with it, just because you might have, like, you probably do, right? Like, that's neither here nor there. But I think to kind of be so openly supportive of Israel when you're a billionaire on top of it, and what's kind of going on in terms of the conflict they're in the role they're playing in it, to kind of say I hear nothing bad about them, and I wish I could go there and visit one day. It's extremely tone deaf, right? And it just feels like, come on, Bron, like, it opens the floodgates to where do you really stand in this situation, right? Especially when things about Steph and Kevin Durant, they invested in a company that supports drones for Israel. It's just a mess. It's such a bad look. And now when you factor in a billionaire who plays in the NBA, who the NBA has a somewhat weird relationship with Israel for some reason, it's just not a good look for Bron. And I think, you know, the PR this week in general, like, I don't even want to talk about the Michael Jordan video, because that shit looked fucking weird. It was just like watching, like, players that you look up to just have such a, when you just have that happen, it's just like, what the hell are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, they made Wemby look like a god. Like, they made him look like the most outstanding citizen of the world. You know what I mean? And it just feels like it is disappointing to see somebody with as much respect as LeBron has in the league kind of just say those things when you kind of know that there's such strong feelings toward Israel right now and what they're doing, and you just kind of just like, oh well, they're so fun. I love it over there. Like it was not a good look for Braun. It was not a good look. I really was disappointed in Braun in that one. I was really disappointed in that one. But what's the NBA without drama? What's the NBA without drama? All right, let's get on a little bit of a brighter subject. Baby Keem announced that he is dropping an album called Casino this Friday. Baby Keem was definitely on my list. I had a list earlier this year in one of the earlier episodes of this year where I gave my most anticipated albums of the year, and I think Baby Keem was on that list. I think he is long overdue for an album. The last album he dropped, The Melodic Blue, was fire. I had so much fun. He was on the tour with Kendrick when I went to see him for Mr. Morale. So I'm excited for this. I think Baby Keem is a talented artist. I think, when you have somebody like Kendrick in your corner who you are able to bounce ideas off of, who can help you out with direction and curation and just having the amount of, I think, support and resources that Baby Keem is going to have for this album, I think it just led you to just be super excited about what he can do. And then kind of watching the documentary and him talking about his upbringing and how rough it was and the things he's seen and witnessed and experienced, I think it lends me to be excited about how he's going to translate all of that into his music, right? Because I think even for me, like, I've heard moments where I feel like Baby Keem has been very introspective, but it sounds like this album really is going to really kind of dig deep into that. And I think for me, I'm always a sucker for a good introspective, reflective album, especially when it's maybe could be tied more into coming of age or realizing the things that you've seen in your environment and where you are now in life and how all these things shaped you into the person you became and the lessons you've learned. I think always makes for a good album. It makes for what I think is the beauty in hip hop, which is telling a story of coming from point A to point B and all the stories in between and how we feel after that and what is the message and lessons you want to give to the world or how they could, handle being in that environment and get to a place where you are now. I think it's always going to be good for the space of hip hop to have albums like that. I feel like that's what makes the Fall Off so great in a way, and what makes many Kendrick albums amazing, and just a lot of hip hop albums great. So super excited for that. I think we also are going to get Larry June, Currency, and Alchemist. I think that is this Friday. I think that album is going to be incredible. I think you have two rappers like Larry June, like Currency, who I think have such a great individual connection with Alchemist. And I feel like Larry June and Currency, they kind of relate in the same way. I feel like they don't really differ away from who they are as rappers. They are guys who, they like to smoke weed. They like to talk about how much money they got. They flex. And I think that it's cool. I feel like in their lane of hip hop, which I think is kind of like what I would call P rap, is where I think you just P, like you just accept yourself for who you are. You a fly nigga who just be chilling, has money, and you rap over dope production like The Alchemist or a Harry Fraud or Cardo. You know what I mean? You just have just dope flows and just can, you just rap well. And so I think it's going to be a fun listen. Like I said, Larry June worked with 2 Chainz and The Alchemist last year for Life is Beautiful, and that was a Grammy nominated album. So I don't know if this will be Grammy nominated, but I think Larry June and Currency, they're going to make it interesting. I really did enjoy the single that they dropped, so I'm excited for it. In terms of music for the rest of in terms of this year, I've been well fed. You know what I mean? For so many albums that have come out this year, I've been so impressed by. And just in the hip hop realm, I kind of saw Will Smith dropped an album, and I listened to one of the tracks, and man, that shit sounded amazing. So I'm definitely going to check that out, and hopefully I got some more thoughts on him for next episode. But, I'm definitely been super satisfied with the way this year has been going in terms of music. And I feel like this could be one of those years, man. One of those years where we kind of look back on it. We're looking at all these albums and saying, hey, this was a good year. We got some really quality music. Even for me, I'm looking at all these tours and I'm like, I'm not even going to afford a trip anywhere because I'm trying to go. I already got my Don Toliver ticket. I got to get my ASAP ticket. I got to see, I'm trying to go see Cole. Like, there's a lot, man. And I mean, I know Baby Keem is going on tour, so now I might have to catch him on that. So yeah, I must be spending a lot of money on concert tickets this year. But definitely for sure, man. I can't wait to check it out. This new Baby Keem album. He has an autograph signing in Baltimore next week, so definitely I'm gonna definitely go try to see if I can make it out there to go to the autograph signing. And yeah, man. So be on the lookout for that on Friday, man. I think it's gonna be great. So I actually asked some of you guys for some topics for this week, just because I felt like I didn't have much to cook up. Well, I actually have, and well, yeah. So I asked you guys for some topics, just to help me kind of cook up or whatever. And some of you guys had some really really good ideas in terms of topics, so I thought they were super dope. So some of them I'm gonna do. Somebody asked me what is my thoughts on the state of the world, and I feel like this is a deeper topic because I think so much of my life has kind of been a reflection of the state of the world and just how my thoughts have kind of changed. So let's talk about it. As of recently, I read the Epstein files. And I wouldn't say I read them because it's fucking 3 million pages, so I haven't read every single page, but I've done a brief enough synopsis and overview of the Epstein files. And I think for me, it's been tough since kind of reading about it and learning about what's been going on, and then just this ICE thing, and it really changed the way I view the world, and it has not been very positive. It has not been very friendly to me since I've read about them. And I think the one thought I have is just like disgust. When you read the things that are happening to these people on Epstein Island and the people involved and the money involved and just how this whole network has worked, I think you just have no choice but to be disgusted, like that these are just human beings doing this to other human beings. And there's a level of just audacity because people feel like they're super rich that they are just able to do this to people. Then you watch Pam Bondi, who I think just goes up there and just completely just avoids every question and talks about why are we talking about this when we should be talking about the stock market and how great the stock market is doing. And it's just like, but there's a sex trafficking ring going on, and we need answers as to why people are not being brought to justice. And if you want me to keep it a buck, I feel like because I've consumed so much Epstein Files content, especially on TikTok, that I think I just kind of left out of it feeling hopeless, right? Like, it kind of brought back a lot of the nihilism I kind of struggle with, especially since like losing my faith. Like, the nihilism kind of really does kind of grow a lot more, and the existential crisis is just really grow for me a lot more because you just start to feel like, what can we do? And it feels like there's nothing you can do. And the reason why I say that is just because it feels like there's not enough willingness to sacrifice certain things that could make a real difference, that I think you feel like everybody else would get on board with. For example, there's been this thing on TikTok recently about March 7th, we should go on a tax strike. Everybody should file exempt on their taxes. People should stop going to work. People should stop spending money. People should A, B, C, and D. And I think, while I think these ideas are great and could make a difference, I think the reason why I feel hopeless is just because I don't think enough people are willing to do it for it to make any difference. You know what I mean? I think people couldn't not watch the Super Bowl, or watch the NFL and look at how the NFL just handles these things. They kicked Kaepernick out the league, and it didn't really stop most of us from watching football. all these players are getting CTE and doing foul shit. Like these niggas are beating their wives or beating their girls or just being complete degenerates. And it doesn't really stop us from really supporting the NFL because we're just entertained by it. You know what I mean? People won't stop using ChatGPT even though AI is harmful for the environment. And the more we use AI, the more people are going to feel invested to continue to let it grow. And then it's going to affect the job market and all this shit like that. So it kind of becomes this thing where people are just like, oh, well, I use it, so fuck it, who cares? And the NBA kind of the same way. You know, I feel like they kind of have a little bit of a weird relationship with Israel. WWE is a freaking right wing company. They love Trump. They love Trump. He's in the WWE Hall of Fame. Hulk Hogan was a fucking racist, and they did almost a whole fucking 2-week special of just glazing Hulk Hogan and just saying, well, who really gives a fuck? He did so much for wrestling, so who cares the fact that he used the N-word and he was racist and doesn't like black people, even though you have black wrestlers on the roster. You know what I mean? I don't feel like sometimes we have enough discipline and self-sacrifice to kind of really make changes because of fear or just the fact that there's nothing else to kind of replace what it is that we do, you know, whether it's using certain platforms. I don't even use Twitter no more. I think Twitter is such a poorly run app that I don't even use it anymore. I got back on it for a couple of weeks and I was like, yeah, I see why I got off it. I haven't logged back in since. But I think that's the thing, is just that some of these things are so engraved into our society that the idea of boycotting these things feels foreign or unrealistic. And to get the amount of people on board to make a real difference, it just doesn't seem possible. You know what I mean? And then you just kind of see how the government is moving and just how everything is going. It just doesn't feel like there's any desire to hold these people accountable. They won't even release the rest of the files. You know what I mean? Like, it's that bad, you know? So I guess it leaves me feeling hopeless just because this is the world we're in. You know, it feels like we have no control or no say over the people in power and how our lives are going, even though it affects us the most. You know what I mean? Like, it's really some crazy shit. You know what I mean? It's scary to think about the idea of raising kids right now, knowing that the people in power have no desire to protect them. You know, they have no desire to protect them. And unfortunately, I feel like there's a lot of people who are just regular people, the 9-to-5ers, who are complicit in it because Trump has created such a cult-like following that unfortunately some of these people are too far gone. I don't think people like me are going to change their minds and see the ways of like, hey, y'all do know Trump is wild as shit, right? They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. You're not convincing these people otherwise that this is some wild shit that's happening because they've been brainwashed so much. You know what I mean? We can't even agree that ICE killing American citizens is bad as a collective. There's still people out here that's just like, why did they resist? Like, they should have just complied. Like you recording the police, the ICE agents should not be a death sentence. You know what I mean? And just to let you guys know, you know, just because the news kind of stopped covering it, there's enough people on TikTok right now telling you in Minneapolis, oh, the shit is still going on. They're still down there killing motherfuckers. And yeah, it's still pretty bad over there. So, you know, just letting everybody know, just to make you not think that, oh, they cooled down finally. Nope, they're getting worse. Like, they're getting worse. They're getting bad. They're still taking people. They're torturing people in these detainment centers. And it's bad, bro. And it feels like there's no real way to make a difference in this shit. It feels like there's no way. We're getting our voices out here. Now all of a sudden it's, hey, the president and the government are trying to get the personal information of people who criticize ICE on social media and stuff like that. It's just like, I think for me, when I say the nihilism kind of grows, it's just that to me, it just doesn't feel like we're as free as I thought we were. You know what I mean? And I've kind of covered a lot of certain topics just in personal conversations and maybe on here where I just feel like we've kind of been lied to. You know what I mean? I feel like for me, there's so much shit that is so normal and so, yeah, like it's so normalized sometimes that I think when you kind of rip everything off and look at it from like this bare metal thing, it just is like, holy shit. Like, we kind of are just, at least how I've been seeing the world recently, it just feels like we're here to work and die. You know, we can't get a decent work-life balance. We live in hustle culture. We're convincing ourselves that it should be normal for us to work 2 to 3 jobs for us to do this. We pay a shit ton of money in taxes. We have no control over where the money is going. We can't even hold pedophiles accountable for the shit that they're doing. And these people are the ones that's controlling all of our daily life. You know what I mean? And it just left me feeling very hopeless about the state of the world and what the hell can we do. And I think as I try to entertain and I support as many ideas of protest as I can. You know what I mean? When they went on, hey, we're not buying anything for a day, I didn't buy shit. And I reposted it. When it was, hey, you know, we're not going to go to work this day in support of people from Minnesota. I went into work for a little bit, but I took a half day in support and I didn't buy anything. And I don't know, it just feels like peaceful protests and walking in the street, they don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I just hate to say it like that. It just feels like it hasn't really done anything. I think these things are great ideas, but I guess sometimes I really do question, like, how are we going to get these things to actually change for us and work for the betterment of the American people, the working class? How can we get treated better? We don't have universal health care. We can't even agree on that. You know what I mean? Like, we have so many predatory things in our society, whether it's the IRS, whether it's health insurance, whether it's just insurance in general, whether it's just all of these things. We have no solidarity in wanting better for the American people. And I think a lot of it has started with the brainwashing of convincing you that if somebody doesn't have these resources, they didn't deserve it. They didn't work hard enough. And now it makes you feel like, well, if you don't have it, then it's your fault. And that's not the case. The government should be helping the people, not the other way around. You know what I mean? We should know where our tax dollars is going and not be sending it over to a country that is using it to bomb children. You know what I mean? And if that's what they're doing, I should be allowed to withdraw my funds out of that. And instead, no, I just owe it at the end of the year plus interest. So I don't know. It left me feeling very hopeless. You know what I mean? There's no really any plans of improving the job market. AI is taking over and taking jobs. And, you know, we have, you know, these corporations and everything have prioritized profit over people. So, I mean, this is just what it looks like when greed takes over and you put so much of the infrastructure of America in the hands of people who are only looking out for themselves, by the way. And now you come to find out, which they probably always have been, considering the fact that what they're doing to these people now, they've done to black people for God knows how long. And now that it's being brought out to light, and it still feels like there's no way to hold these people accountable for it to stop. So what do? I don't really know. You know what I mean? I don't know. Even when I hear people kind of say there's no way you're going to overthrow a government without violence, it's like, I understand that, and it's not even, I think, the fear of violence, but, you know, everybody just who kind of stands on that side, like, if we have to overthrow, we're going to have to use violence. I think that's easier said than done, because I don't think human life is that expendable. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think that, for me, if people are losing their family members or their loved ones, that, oh, well, they did it for the cause and they should be okay with it. Because I know if I lost somebody I loved in another civil war, I'm going to be grieving. I'm going to be disappointed. I'm going to be hurt and frustrated. So I'm not just going to just throw somebody else's family member and say, well, their life doesn't matter for real because it's greater for the greater good. Even if that could be true. You know what I mean? Even if a violent outcry from the American people, considering we outnumber the rich and wealthy, I mean, it just feels like it just it feels like I don't even think you can convince enough people to do that. You know what I mean? So good luck trying to convince people that a violent overthrow of the government is going to work. I don't know what to do. Honestly, I think I feel super hopeless, and I feel like being a regular citizen, it just feels hopeless, you know? So I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it. And that's just kind of what has kind of affected my mental health the past couple of weeks, is just kind of seeing so much violence and so much deplorable, disgusting acts happen. And it just feels like, well, what now? You know what I mean? We can be frustrated. We can be upset. I think we all can agree on that. But how do we get it to stop? I don't know. I really don't know. All right, sorry to kind of kill the mood, but I'm gonna leave the episode on a little bit of a brighter. It's a darker subject too, but it's a little bit brighter in terms of it's a little bit better. I had a friend ask me, "What do you think about the male loneliness epidemic?" I think this is a great question, especially because I think I see, especially on TikTok, I see a lot of people kind of struggling with dating and struggling with friends. And I have a lot of thoughts on the male loneliness epidemic because I do think it is a very real thing. But let's talk about it. Male loneliness, they say, from between the ages of 18 and 34, it's been some of the highest reported cases of males, of men feeling lonely and kind of depressed and, not having much romantic connection. And I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. Because we're talking about men, I'm just going to throw a quick disclaimer. I am going to criticize women a little bit in this. It's not to say that men are free of criticism, because trust me, I've been watching the new Love is Blind, and trust me, women, I get it. You know what I'm saying? I understand your struggle, because watching some of these dudes do the shit that they do, it's a rough watch. It's some of the shit that these niggas are doing is wild. But that's neither here nor there. But let's talk about it. Male loneliness. Let's start off with point number one I have. And I'm kind of rambling. I didn't write them down. I'm kind of rambling, so bear with me. Point number one I have is I think red pill / hustle culture is a big contributing factor into the male loneliness. I feel like when I was watching that content, and let me just preface by saying this, yes, I used to watch red pill content. I was a college kid, new environment, trying to interact with women, and I had been through numerous L's in my life regarding women, and that's how they get you in the red pill. And yes, I watched some of it, and of course at one point I thought that what they were saying, it made sense. I don't really support red pill anymore. That's not it, because I feel like actually going out there and being in the real world and interacting with real women and shit like that completely changed my outlook on what they were telling me in the red pill. That's neither here nor there. Red pill and hustle culture, I think, tells you as a man that you shouldn't allow yourself to have fun. You need to be locked in 24/7. You need to stay in the gym. You need to work 80 hours a week. And when you're not working or you're not in the gym, you need to be working on another set of income. If your friends text you and they want to go to the bar, you need to tell them no. If your friend's birthday is coming up, no, don't go. Save your money, stay in the house, work on your business. You need to be locked in, not seeing anybody for 2 years, 3 years, until you can pop back out and you can be the man. And I think as humans, because that's what we are, we as humans, we have a natural inclination to want to connect with other human beings. Like, that's what we do naturally. And when you completely take out connecting with people, you're going to probably feel depressed. That's not to say that you guys can't work on yourself. It's to also just say, don't forget your friends. Don't forget to get outside and go hang out with people. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean not to go talk to your coworkers. You know what I mean? I feel like that one thing is setting people up to be lonely and depressed, is because you're listening to somebody tell you that you need to optimize your whole life. And this is coming from somebody who, I think I am anti-optimization of your life. I don't think you need to have every second of your day planned out to the T to make sure you're getting every goal done. I think that is just not the natural way of life. I think capitalism has completely made people think that you have to just be the most efficient with your time and don't allow yourself to have fun. Y'all, we work 9 hours a day. There's nothing wrong with getting off of work and just wanting to watch a little bit of TV. You know what I mean? Yes, we could probably all be on our phones a lot less. Or yes, we could probably be all scrolling on TikTok a lot less and maybe picking up books more. I know I've been reading a lot more, but at the end of the day, when you look at the current work-life balance, it's usually poor. You know what I mean? And I'm just talking about just your regular working hours. I'm not even including commute. I'm not including that sometimes you have to go home and maybe cook dinner or go to the gym. It's a lot. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes you have to allow yourself to have fun, because I'm going to keep it a buck with you guys. We don't have a lot of time on this earth. Our lifetime on earth is very finite. And I don't think you're going to leave the earth feeling so happy that I sat inside all day and built my business. You're going to be thinking about the times you spent with people and the memories you made. That's not to say that that's all your life should be, is clubbing and partying. No, it's just to develop an actual balance of being with your friends and spending time with them. And yeah, being a good friend. I feel like, we all are trying to start whipping up excuses as to why we're not showing up for our friends as much, why we don't pull up to birthdays, or why don't we pull up to things, and it's just always, well, I'm locked in. Bro, you can spend time with your friends, bro, and still be locked in. Like, it's not that hard. I hang out with my homies, and that's how we bond, is just to go to the movies once a week. We all find the time to go. Start setting up a ritual. We all have routines and rituals and traditions we do. Set up a rituals with your friend. And tell them, hey, on Friday nights, bruh, we can all try to figure out something to do. It don't have to be expensive. I know shit out here is expensive. Y'all can link up at your man's crib. Y'all can go to the bar. You know what I'm saying? I kind of seen a TikTok the other day where they were like, and I know people are going to, disagree, but there was a TikTok of a dude kind of saying like, sobriety culture is kind of killing shit. You know what I mean? And like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with, being a person that's sober, but I think it's this idea of, like, I think trying to appear to be so much more mature, and I'm just sitting in the house and I don't go out and I don't do anything, instead of just enjoying life. And I think you should just want to enjoy your life. That's all, man. I think thing number two is thing two about male loneliness is to getting out there and doing shit that you want to do regardless of who goes. Y'all, I am a very big advocate of, if you want to go do something, you can throw out an invite and invite your people. But if you want to go bad enough, go. I have been to concerts by myself. I went to the Air and Space Museum last year by myself. Even now, this might sound crazy. Sometimes if I get lonely, I won't say lonely, but sometimes when I kind of can get into my own little, like, kind of depressive modes or whatever, where I can really, especially when the nihilism starts to kick in a little bit. Something I've been doing a little bit recently, I haven't been in a while, but I went to Looney Tuesday a couple weeks ago. No, a couple months ago. It's been a couple months now. I'm 27 and I'm going back to the bar I went to when I was in college. And a lot of that shit is really just because I kind of go back to a familiar environment that gave me a familiar feeling of being around people my age. And yeah, probably when I go in there, I'm probably one of the older people in the bar, probably, right? Especially on a Looney Tuesday where it's probably mostly college students. For sure, not disagreeing. But I say that to say that going out by yourself is a dope experience because you just get to meet people who at least you kind of know through this common place. There's maybe at least a common interest there. One of my closest friends, Jason, I met that nigga playing basketball at Epley by myself. I didn't go there with my friends and already have a group of 5. I happened to run into this nigga and start a conversation, and this nigga's been my man's ever since. I can list off, I can just list off a bunch of things. I just think you have to put yourself in a position to connect with people. Sometimes it's just nice to be in an environment with other human beings rather than just sitting in your room watching TV. Like, it's nice to do those things. I go to the movies by myself. I go to the mall by myself. I think that those things help to actually go be in environments of places that you like to be in. Art shows, if you're an artist. It's nice to be in environments where you're with people who have a common interest in you. And it honestly gives you the easiest layup to meet people and introduce yourself because you have a common interest literally right there, you know? And I just think sometimes for a lot of people, you have to push yourself to actually go talk to people. It's not as easy. Yes, for sure. I'm not disagreeing. You know, I'm more comfortable talking to people just because I've done it so many times that I feel like there's not no person I can't walk up to and strike up a conversation, even if it's the most random shit. It's a skill. It's a muscle that has to be trained. Talking to people and introducing yourself and, you know, whipping up something like it takes time. You know what I'm saying? So I say all this to say, man, just try to keep putting yourself in that position to meet new people. Even I'm trying to do that a little bit more. It's just hanging out and getting out there and just seeing like who can I possibly meet. I went to concerts by myself and I met dope people. You know what I mean? Have I seen them in a while? No, but you know, I mean, when I went out by myself in college, I met people out there. So that's another thing. And also for the men, you know, regarding relationships, you know, and finding a significant other, I 100% understand the pain. You know what I mean? I think one thing we are seeing now is I think there's so much varying amounts of different information on the internet about women and how to approach women and whether they even want to be approached. I mean, I get it. You know, if I was, you know, actively looking to date somebody and I went on TikTok and I had no uh knowledge of what the dating game is like right now and I had to try to figure it out through TikTok, I would be confused too. You know, you click on one video, you have a girl say, I don't know, no, we don't want to be approached. We don't want to be approached at the bar when we're with our girlfriends because we're just trying to have a good night. We don't want to be approached in the gym because we just trying to get our workout in. And then you'll swipe up on one more and then you'll see a girl say, why don't the men approach women no more? 100% I understand the pain because even when I was single in college, I used to see the same shit. And it can be very, I think, disappointing because you're just like, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, y'all know the meme where it's like, it'd be like sexual harassment versus flirting. Like, I get how you can feel that way. And like, I think the dating game has kind of changed to where it's hard to really feel comfortable in dating because it can feel like a humiliation ritual sometimes. I really can't disagree and blame the guys for feeling that way because I understand, you know what I mean? I've witnessed it firsthand, you know, guys don't want to go on the T app, you know what I mean? And a lot of the times, bro, and I feel for some of the fellas on this one, some of your biggest fears regarding women and approaching women and everything like that, you know, you do fear that because you see it on more occasions than not, where especially with the growth of social media and TikTok, you just don't want to be the guy that approaches this girl and then gets clowned on social media for millions of people to see. You know what I mean? I understand that. Like, there used to be a quote where niggas used to be like, the worst he can say is no. And I think the dating game has changed to where, honestly, that's not the worst thing she can say. Like, you know, there's a lot much more that can happen. And I think guys do genuinely fear that. I think my advice to combat that, honestly, and I know, you know, like I said, you can't control how people are going to react. I get it. But I think that, you know, the best thing you can do in terms of navigating dating, especially if you're feeling lonely, is I think it's a numbers game. I think for some guys, you have to realize it's a numbers game. There's so many different, I think, strategies of dating. And I think one of them is that it's a numbers game. You shoot as many shots and one of them is bound to go in. I think another strategy can actually be, I think this is an unpopular opinion, I think you can legitimately be friends with a girl first before you get in a relationship with them. I think if you are him and you have good qualities about yourself, you take good care of yourself, you're a good dude, you know how to talk to women, you're funny, handsome, whatever. If you just even have good characteristic traits about yourself, I think that if you're a dude and you be friends with a girl and she's seeing those good traits, I think that it lends itself to kind of transition into it being more, once you get to know that person. I think, you hear so much advice about you have to go kind of balls to the walls in the beginning to prevent being friend zoned. And that could be a potential strategy for you too, is to actually be friends with them and get to know them, because you have to know whether you like them too. You have to know them, and being friends with somebody allows you to see their true colors firsthand. You're not just going to get the best version of themselves because they want to be cuffed up too. You actually get to see them, see how they move, see how they think. And if you like that, then you can kind of try to have that conversation and see where it can go. And there's plenty of other strategies. Trust me. I think you have to actually just put yourself out there, and it's scary, 100%. But trust me, as somebody who has been the ugliest of ugliest when I was in school, public school, to actually have been somebody that I think actually have found somebody who actually cared about me and loved me for who I was and embraced me for all the flaws and the great things about myself. A lot of you guys are cooler than you think. A lot of you guys are better than you think. You let the negative shit kind of influence what you think everybody else thinks about you. You kind of project that onto everybody else, and then you'll be genuinely surprised at how people really feel about you. So I think the main thing is just kind of combine tip number 2 and number 3. Put yourself out there and go do shit that you actually like to do. You know what I mean? If you like going to concerts, bro, trust me, I'm pretty sure you can probably find a girl that's there that's by herself at that concert that you might want to strike a conversation with. Like, don't be afraid of the rejection or the worst case scenario, because the worst case scenario, while you see it on social media a good amount or whatever, it doesn't happen nowhere near the amount that you think it does, just because it's almost like a confirmation bias. Like, you see it, and because it's so jarring, if you see it enough times, you think it's happening as often as you think, and it really doesn't. You know what I mean? So put yourself out there, man. Get outside. Don't just sit here and be constantly locked in on these goals and monk mode and all this shit like that. No, man. Actually make time for your friends and make connections with people. Actually go out there and we have social media at our disposal. If you see somebody at a location, man, swipe up on their story and say, yo, where's that at? Yo, we gotta check that out sometimes. I know people who send me TikTok of places, and we be like, fuck it, you want to slide? Like, just don't be afraid of just putting yourself out there, man. You really have such a finite time on this earth. We love to connect with people as humans. That's what our favorite thing is to do, is really to connect, communicate with people. And that's how you got to do it. And if you don't have friends, you got a friend in me, my nigga. I be open to doing shit. You know what I'm saying? So, for all the guys out there that's feeling lonely, or just in general, if you have a friend out there that is feeling lonely and you have an advice for them, man, just push yourself out there. Push yourself out there to go do some shit that you want to do, and go do it even if nobody else wants to go with you, because you probably can find somebody there who you have a common interest with, who ends up being the person that will go with you to shit. And relationships and dating, it's all a numbers game. It really is all a numbers game. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Try to connect with people. Maybe try to befriend women and get to know them on a personal level, and continue to grow in areas that maybe you feel like you lacking in dating. If you feel like physically you lacking, hit the gym. Try to cop some clothes. If you feel like you're not as patient or you're not as a good communicator, try to learn to talk to people. Get comfortable introducing yourself. Get comfortable starting a conversation with somebody off the random. I work in customer service, so I'm used to just talking to random people and having random conversations with motherfuckers I don't know, but from a can of paint. You know what I mean? Try it out, man. Try it out, and just see where it can take you, because I think people wouldn't feel as lonely. And also, just to other people out there, be friendly to other people. I think the loneliness isn't just based off the people who feel lonely. I think it's how we carry ourselves in the world. You know what I mean? Smile at somebody when you walk past somebody. You know what I mean? Wave and say hello. You know what I mean? Don't act like you're too good to befriend somebody and anything like that. And just treat others with kindness. That's where the loneliness comes in from. It's the feeling of feeling invisible. I think that's what it is. You feel invisible. You feel like you're not being seen. Check in on your friends. You know what I'm saying? All of these things help out loneliness. You know what I mean? And don't be afraid to check in on your friends. You know what I mean? just be open to communicating, be vulnerable with people, tell people your story, and help people help you and want to support you in numerous ways. I think really will help with combating that. You know what I mean? So that was kind of my answer to that. Music recommendation for the week. I gave him a music recommendation for his last project, but my man's Junior dropped another project on Valentine's Day. Quick little EP. I thought it was dope. Go ahead and check it out, man. Go support my man's. My man's Justin said he gonna be dropping some heat soon, by the way, bruh. So be on the lookout for my man's, bruh. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Junior. He got the Heart EP out. Quick little 4 songs, 9 minutes. Cool little joints, got some features on there too. And that is it for this episode. This is a long one. This is like damn near an hour 15. Dope. If you guys like this episode, man, make sure to leave a like on the show. Whether you listen on YouTube, leave a like on the video. Rate the show 5 stars. Help your brother get on the algorithm, because we will be visual sooner than you think. I don't have a timetable on it, but I think visually I want to be hitting the ground running on that and have a great audience for that once we go visual, because that's really going to take us to another level. So be on the lookout for that in the next coming months, probably. Go ahead and follow the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow me on the social medias at that xboyxname, pretty much everywhere. And I will catch you guys on the next episode next week, man. Peace out.